This is a regular meeting of the District of Columbia Commission on the Arts and Humanities. My name is Reggie Van Lee, chairperson of the commission. I'm an African-American man wearing a navy suit and a white shirt. I will now call the roll. When you hear your name, please answer present. Stacy. Cora.
Present.
Maggie.
Present.
Quanice. Natalie. Kymber. Mariah. Carla.
Here.
Hector.
Here.
Gretchen.
Here.
And myself. A quorum is present. This is a meeting of a public body held in open session in accordance with the Open Meetings Act. Notice of the meeting was posted on the Commission's website, dcarts.dc.gov, and on the DC Office of Open Government's Central Meetings calendar. The meeting is being conducted at the Gallup Building in Washington, D.C., and is being live streamed to the Commission's YouTube channel. An electronic recording of the meeting will be available for viewing online following the conclusion of the meeting. I will now read the land acknowledgement. Excuse me. Every community owes its existence and vitality to generations from around the world who contributed their hopes, dreams, and energy to making the history that led to this moment. Some were brought here against their will, some were drawn to leave their distant homes in hope of a better life, and some have lived in this land for more generations than can be counted. Truth and acknowledgement are critical to building mutual respect and connection across all barriers of heritage and difference. We begin this effort to acknowledge what has been buried by honoring the truth. We stand on the ancestral lands of the Nacotchtank and Piscataway people. We pay respects to their elders past and present. Please take a moment to consider the many legacies of violence, displacement, migration, and settlement that bring us together here today. And please join us in uncovering such truths at any and all public events, and to use such truths to guide the legacy of this Arts Commission. The first item of business is the consent calendar. Is there any objection to the issues listed on the consent calendar? Hearing no objection, the items are adopted and approved as noted. I want to pause here to thank our hosts. I don't see any of my friends from Gallup here. Our friends from Gallup for allowing us to use their wonderful space. I'm on the board here at Gallup, and we were having a board meeting here, and I said, I wonder if we could have the commission's meeting here. So here we are. So thanks to Jim Clifton, who's the chair of the board, John Clifton, who is the CEO, Haley Barr, who really made it happen, and Christine Sheehan. So thank you to our hosts here. One of my innovations when I took over as chair was to remind us of why we're here, and to do that in the form of making sure we have artists to start each of our meetings. We can get wrapped up in budgets and grants and issues and arguments and forget why we're here. So we start every meeting with one of our grantees or some other artist that reminds us why we're here. So please join me in welcoming the Arts and Humanities Education Project's grantee, the Herbie Hancock Institute of Jazz, and students from the Duke Ellington School of the Arts for a special performance.
Thank you all very much. As we get plugged in, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Leonard Brown. I am from the Herbie Hancock Institute of Jazz, producer of the International Jazz Competition, and director of the Jazz in the Classroom programs. On guitar, from Duke Ellington, we have Mr. Zane Brennan. On bass, also from Duke Ellington, on bass, from Duke Ellington, Cyrus Bajans. And lastly, on drums, of course, also from Duke Ellington, Mr. Kevin Kearney. And we will perform for you a composition entitled Olio, written by the great saxophonist Sonny Rollins.
I wanted them to play all night, but I think we have some other stuff we have to do. So this is what we do. We don't make the music, but we make the music happen. So this is one of our Grantee partners. Thank you again. Duke Ellington. I have to say Duke Ellington, yes, exactly. So we are honored to have the mayor of the nation's capital here with us, Mayor Bowser. And I've asked if she'd say.
Out of the way. Well, thank you, commissioners, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You can hear I'm feeling a little under the weather, so I wanted to be here for the meeting, but I'm going to go home and get in the bed. But I wanted to say to the commissioners, thank you for your hard work and dedication over this fiscal year. When is October 1st? Is it Saturday? Saturday is the new year in the District of Columbia. It's the opportunity where our FY23 investments are starting to be put on the street and realized and implemented by our agencies. And I know you have a big year ahead of you. I want to thank you for your commitment to several signature events that we conduct in the district, including last weekend's Art All Night, which was hugely successful. And I noticed last year that the commission increased its investment almost twofold. And so what that allowed us to do was to go into 22 neighborhoods across all 8 wards and really demonstrate that the arts are the creative economy of Washington, D.C. And you can be an artist, you can live here, you can work here, you can have a business here, you can employ people here. And that's what we celebrate in 202 Creates. And that's what the strategic investments that you are making allow us to do each and every year. This month, we also celebrated artists with the Mayor's Arts Award, where we just enlivened a venue in Ward 6 that many people didn't even know about. And we were able to celebrate artists of all stripes and backgrounds and ages, including a 103-year-old hat maker who received the Distinguished Arts Award from me. So again, I want to thank you. I know that Deputy Mayor Falcicchio is here to brief you on another possible collaboration with the Arts Commission and DMPED and Historic Anacostia and the Arts District that we are very, very excited about. So people are noticing around the world, around the nation, and certainly around DC. And the last point I'll make is please, please recognize that you're integral to the district's comeback. Part of what it's going to take to bring our city all the way back from COVID is enlivening our downtowns and commercial districts that have lost workers and enlivening them with other guests. With theater goers, with concert goers, with festival goers, with street artists, with streeteries, with alleries. This is something new that I saw on H Street. And so this commission can be key to that part of what we're working on to bring our economy and our city all the way back. So thank you for your partnership, and I look forward to our continued work together.
Thank you, Mayor Bowser. We will keep doing the hard work. And I want to make sure that in the comments, when the mayor talks about the commission, she's talking about the staff as much as she's talking about the commissioners. I mean, you all actually do the really hard work, and I'm so glad so many of you were able to come today. And this is a celebration for you. There'll be a little party afterwards, and this is really for you. We're sort of like interloping on your party, but this is really a party for the staff. Yes. Thank you, Mayor Bowser. Thank you again. We have 2 speakers scheduled to give public comments. The first is Erica Ortiz from Ford's Theater Society. Is Ms. Ortiz here?
Hello.
Oh, yes.
Hi, thank you, Chairman Van Lee. Good evening, Mayor Bowser, commissioners, and the amazing jazz trio and the staff. My name is Erica Ortiz, and I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the Director of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion at Ford's Theater Society. I want to thank you for your land acknowledgement, and I also want to acknowledge that I'm joining you from the land of the Nacotchtank and Piscataway Peoples, many who still reside in the area, this their ancestral homeland. For visual description, I'm a Black woman. I'm wearing a blue dress, and I'm in front of an assortment of books, photos, guitars, and knickknacks. I'm joining you today because at the last full commissioners meeting held here in July, there were some questions about Ford's Theater Society's work towards equity, diversity, and inclusion, and it was implied that perhaps we weren't making significant strides in those areas. So I am completing my first year here at Ford's, and I saw this evening's meeting as a welcome opportunity to, one, introduce myself to the commission, secondly, to clarify Ford's commitment and progress in this field, and to offer my and the theater's support to anyone who may wish to collaborate on making the DC arts community more just and more thriving. After all, I know that the commission is here to serve DC's arts and humanities organizations, all of them, and to facilitate the building of bridges. And although this is my first commission meeting, I do not believe that that's about setting up organizations in opposition to one another. We greatly appreciate you, the commission, and the vital funds that you've provided to organizations such as ours. Your ongoing support is helping to sustain the work that I do, that we do, and that we are doing to help to make Ford's more inclusive, diverse, equitable, and accessible. And it also ensures future accountability across our arts community. So to give you a little bit of insight, I wanted to give you a snapshot of some of the work that we've been doing at Ford's. Internally, we've increased all of our efforts towards hiring, recruiting, and retaining a diverse workforce and cultivating a sense of belonging for all who visit, volunteer, and work at our historic site. Because of our intentional efforts and this intersectional approach that we've taken, over 50% of the senior leadership at Ford's identify as BIPOC, including myself, and overall 60% of all open positions in our current year have been filled by staff who also identify as BIPOC. We have removed any barriers to entry in our recruitment efforts, removing things like gendered language, avoiding and questioning numerical qualifications, reconsidering and removing degree requirements in favor of equivalent experience, increasing scheduling flexibility, and providing additional assistance for folks that are disabled-bodied, caretakers, and neurodiverse. We've also invested a substantial number of resources in developing the cultural competency of our staff, and we've implemented internal anti-racism training. Last season, for example, each company member participated in first rehearsal implicit bias training, and 100% of our staff this year also received anti-harassment and anti-discrimination training, and this is an ongoing effort for every production that we do at Ford's. Our front of house staff have also engaged in training about dialogic interpretation, so engaging visitors to talk to each other in inclusive, non-judgmental conversations that spark discussion about the history of our historic and infamous site. And as a theatrical producing organization, the diversity on our stage has continued to draw diverse populations to the theater. So in the last 6 years, for example, 95% of our casting has been done locally with DC artists, and over half of all cast members in that 6-year period have identified as people of color. Through our student matinees and our educational programs, we serve students from all 8 wards of the city, including many of whom are economically disadvantaged. Ford's continues to explore the legacy of President Abraham Lincoln, and we also celebrate the American experience through theater and education. And as we explore that, we are broadening our lens to invite and resource underrepresented voices. So this year on our stage, we'll have the Ford's Theater Legacy Commissions, which highlight commission works from BIPOC playwrights, including a workshop of a very exciting new work by playwright and activist Pearl Clegg about Maynard Jackson. Additionally, Ford's welcomes audiences from all over the country and all over the world who visit our historic site. These are very diverse groups made up of everyone from BIPOC, members of religious minorities, military veterans, active duty personnel, LGBTQ persons, persons with disabilities, persons who live in rural areas. And this year, we've increased our outreach to these communities in several ways. So we have removed barriers to attendance by offering free tickets to DC area residents. We are increasingly building a diverse audience through our targeted media campaigns. And we also have specific outreach efforts that target individuals from school groups, churches, community-based nonprofits, and related groups to provide first-time access to any main stage event at Ford's Theater this season. Looking towards the future, we have grand plans, and the amalgamation of this work will be seen through our 20 by 25 strategic initiative, which is a 20-point strategy to include an even more inclusive, diverse, equitable, and accessible Fords by the year 2025. And this strategy will include things like increased initiatives and diverse hiring, which I've mentioned, but also things like internal pipeline programs for candidates from underrepresented populations in production and management and leadership. We are going to create additional multilingual options for the theater, for our print and our online materials. We're looking at supplier diversity and patronizing even more minority and women-owned businesses. And we are planning to increase and create more descriptions and visual descriptions, virtual tours of our space and panels that are not accessible to users with low or no mobility. So we at Ford's, in summary, have a very strong commitment to continuing this work. We have a bold vision for the future of Ford's and for the DC arts community. And of course, 3 short minutes is not nearly enough to cover the full scope and complexity of our work in these areas. But the examples that I've shared with you are a sample of the ongoing work that we're doing at Ford's, and I'm very happy to continue this discussion with anyone here in hearing my voice who is interested in learning more. So I invite your questions and your inquiries, just like the ones made in the last meeting, so that we continue our growth. We are so glad that the Commission is advancing this work and are holding us and the DC arts community accountable, because at the end of the day, we feel that we have a whole lot to be proud of. We are ready and willing to dive into the work still to come, and I invite you to dive into it with us. And I want to thank you for your time today.
Good. Well, thank you, Ms. Ortiz. And I can tell you everything you said warms my heart. That's an amazing list of things that you're working on. So anything the Commission can do to help in that work, that important transformational work, sign us up. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairman.
Before we go to our next speaker, I want to recognize my council member, Councilmember Brooke Pinto, who's here. Gretchen tried to claim you too, but you're my council member. Thank you. No, thank you. Thank you so much for being here. The next public comments, we have Darryl Chappell from the Darryl Chappell Foundation. Mr. Chappell, are you with us?
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Chairman Van Lee. Thank you, Mayor Bowser. Thank you to the Commission, and thank you to the Deputy Director and others. A special thanks to Quinice Floyd and Hector Torres for making this possible for me to be here today. I know there's only 3 minutes. I have a 1 minute, 18-second video, and then I'm going to talk for 2 minutes. So if we can roll the video, please. My name is Darryl Chappell. I'm the founder, president, and chairman of the Darryl Chappell Foundation. I retired from a financial services company, sold my Washington, D.C. home of 10 years, used the proceeds to actually start the nonprofit Darryl Chappell Foundation 501c3. So the Darryl Chappell Foundation is focused on enabling emerging artists to achieve their highest potential. We do that through focusing on artists in residencies, Artist Talk series, and we curate an online digital platform for artists. The foundation has a presence at the local level in Chicago, in Syracuse, New York, in Washington, D.C., in San Juan, Puerto Rico. Meanwhile, the impact is global. The Darryl Chappell Foundation Emerging Artist Learning Pathway consists of 4 phases. The 4th phase is to provide an established artist with an opportunity to give back as a mentor. So they serve as a mentor to the artists in residencies. My vision for the future is that the actual visual artists that the foundation supports today will have a chance to actually be in a position to support other artists who are emerging. So I'm very thankful for this time, for just to share with you very briefly a little bit more about the Darryl Chappell Foundation. We have a few slides to go through. The mission is to empower artists to achieve their highest potential. That's the mission, that's the purpose, that's why we exist. There's a community and building a community of artists throughout the Washington, D.C. area, throughout the United States, Puerto Rico. That's the focus. The learning pathway is critical. It's the cornerstone of what we do every day as a foundation. It starts off with parents and guardians and their young children. It moves then to high school students and university students, where they receive coaching and guidance from actual artists in residence, which is the third phase. Actual artists in residence receiving grants from the Darryl Chappell Foundation through our partner organizations, which are other nonprofits. And then the final phase is the established artists. These are artists that have achieved great things. They serve as mentors for the actual artists in residence. Going to the next slide, you see the actual programs that we provide. You saw them in the video. Artists in Residencies is a core program. The Artist Talk series, very popular program where artists share their life's work with a public global audience for free. The Fund for Community Art is our latest, newest program. I'll talk a little bit more about that momentarily. And then we have an artist marketplace, which quite frankly, the Art Bank was an inspiration for us. A couple of years ago, we had discussions with Haran about the Art Bank, and it really influenced how we design the Darryl Chappell Artist Marketplace. Next slide, please. These are just pictures of artists. You have Gary Burnley, who's a Guggenheim Fellow, did an artist in residency in Syracuse, New York. Jasmine Clark from Brooklyn. The other artists at the bottom there from the Ogden Art of Southern Art in New Orleans, and then the Museo de Arte de Puerto Rico. Next slide. From there, we go into our Artist Talk series, where I mentioned we actually feature artists twice a year. The next slide. We recently focused in on enhancing the artist marketplace. We currently have 6 artists on the artist marketplace selling 43 arts of work. As a foundation, a nonprofit, we do not charge a commission nor fees. So this is actually done for the artists. The next slide, please. That's just samples of the work that's in the artist marketplace. Again, 42 works for sale through these 6 artists in the network. And then I'll go to the next slide and respect your time and start to wrap up. We recently partnered with the 11th Street Bridge for our new program, which is the Fund for Community Art, to actually provide young people in the community, Ward 8 in particular, Ward 7 as well, with an opportunity to receive cash for commissioning an actual mural. So that was announced over the summer, and we look forward to actually opening up the process for artists. And then just the next few slides, just so you can see timeline. I will not go through this in the record. Next slide, please. These are our supporters. Many of them are really prominent Washingtonians. I'm very thankful to have these really strong supporters in the community. Next slide, please. And then our board of directors. We have 4 board directors that are located in the DC area. Very thankful for their leadership. Next slide. And these are our partner organizations that we actually partner with. So we provide grants to the partner organizations. They provide grants directly to the artists. We also have the community of artists of 50+ artists. So thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it and look forward to staying connected. You can reach out to us through many of the different means you see there. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Chappell. Thank you. It's really important for us to understand all the work that's going on in the city. We need to have that visibility and support it. So we appreciate him bringing it in succinct with the video, and that's very good. So now, I'm excited about this. Please join me in welcoming our guest speaker, the Deputy Mayor for Planning and Economic Development, John Falcicchio.
Well, good evening, and thank you for having me. Tough acts to follow. I usually don't have to follow a band. And then the mayor, you just keep upping the scale. So I appreciate you giving me this time. I think I have about 90 minutes, Reggie?
3 hours,
Okay.
but we'll be
But
gone.
let me try to get through. I have a lot of content. And the good thing is the mayor mentioned that this is the beginning of the fiscal year, right? So October 1st, which we just had a cabinet meeting today. When she said that at the cabinet meeting, I started the round of applause because for me, it means that all of our grant programs have new funding for the new year. So that's what I'm going to talk to you a little bit about today. But as the mayor said, arts are not something that are nice to have. They're a critical part of our economy. When you think about how the arts impacts our residents, it means jobs. And it means an economic impact and an impact to our bottom line for the District of Columbia government. So there's an estimate that about $12 billion of economic activity, or about 8.2% of the district's economy, are because of the arts. And they contribute nearly 54,000 jobs to our economy. Think about that. We're an economy pre-pandemic of about 800,000 jobs. So 54,000 specifically relate to arts and culture. So Mayor Bowser knew that part of our comeback was to make sure that we kept investing in creatives and that we kept making sure that our small businesses had access to resources and capital that they never had before. So you heard a lot of people say, what's the new normal? And I will steal this phrase from Rosie Ellen Herring, who said, we don't need a new normal, we need a better normal. And so what we will go through today are a bunch of programs that we have, and I say a bunch because there's a lot of them, that will really help creatives, artists, musicians, and small business owners in the district. So first and foremost, I'm going to talk about a macro program. This one is actually one that the mayor worked on with the members of the council. I know Councilmember Rapinto was a big supporter of creating different innovation districts. And there are three that we have. One in Ward 2, which is actually our Equity and Innovation District in Penn West, which is part of the Golden Triangle bid. We also have another innovation district in Southwest, which is focused on mobility. But the one that I know you'll be most excited about, I'm sure you're excited about those two as well. The one that you'll be most excited about is our arts and culture, our Anacostia Arts and Culture District. And what that really is intended to do is when you think about Anacostia, think about all the cultural assets that are in Anacostia right now, whether it's the Anacostia Art Center, the Anacostia Playhouse, the Frederick Douglass Home, the Smithsonian Anacostia. We even have our Go-Go Museum. Excuse me, our Go-Go Museum in Anacostia. So what we wanted to do was to make sure that we tie them all together, that we actually made sure that everyone knew all the great cultural assets that we have in Anacostia, and that the Anacostia Business Improvement District, or BID for short, is able to do marketing, but also do some more operations to tie them together. So one of the first items that they're going to invest in, the mayor made a $3.7 million investment in creating the arts district, is what they're calling an art cart. So what's an art cart? Well, it's a shuttle by another name. So that shuttle is actually going to go from the Anacostia Metro to all those cultural assets that I talked about. And the idea is similar to what we saw at Art All Night, what I like to call actually now Art All Weekend, was that by bringing more people to the artists will be able to thrive. So as an example, Congress Heights, their Art All Night, what they saw was that, was that no artists left without having at least $1,000 worth of sales. Now for those of you who have gone to shows and gone to farmers markets and other places where artists get to sell their wares, to know that each artist walked away with at least $1,000 means that that's real impact on those artists. So we want to make sure that we continue to support the arts, and the Anacostia Arts District is one of the ways that we have a consistent effort to help really lift up those cultural assets. So in addition to that, we have resources for individual artists and businesses. We list all these resources, and I want you all to write this write this down, tweet it, make a mural of it, obviously dc.com. That's our website, obviouslydc.com. That's all one word. I spoke earlier this week at our retail summit, and somebody said, you said it's obviouslydc.com. I went to dc.com, and that's like a comic book. That's a comic book company. And I said, no, it's all one word, obviouslydc.com. So if you go there, you'll see our grant programs. And they really range. Throughout the pandemic, the mayor put forth and the council supported over $350 million of support to our businesses. One particular opportunity that's open right now is called our Inclusive Innovation Equity Impact Fund. And what that fund allows us to do is to make what I like to call a non-equity investment, others might call it a grant, into businesses. And those are for businesses that have been impacted by racial or ethnic discrimination. And those grants actually range between $30,000 and $150,000. That grant round actually is open right now. Over the course of the year, we'll have more programs that are open. One that the mayor is really excited about is the Commercial Property Acquisition Fund. What that allows small business owners to do is to actually be the owner of the building that they operate in. So whether they want to buy the building that they're operating in or they want to find another property to move to and own, they'll no longer have to pay rent. They'll pay themselves through a mortgage. And what that grant does is really make the down payment more attainable. So, and I see Commissioner Lee Banks shaking her head because she was with us when we announced the first cohort. And one of those, and we did it at Tsunami Hair Salon on Benning Road. And what we really celebrated was that here was somebody who had worked for 10 years building their business, and what they gained by buying the building was peace of mind. They knew that their business could always be there and that they would build wealth through the appreciation on the building. So what that fund actually does is makes grants to businesses up to $750,000 or 25% of the sale price, $750,000 or 25% of the sale price to make acquiring the property that much more attainable. So it is you become the building owner, you're responsible for the maintenance and the upkeep of it, but each month, instead of paying a property owner, you are the property owner. And so that's really something that we're excited about. There's also, I know, some work that we're doing to really support artists. There's a program that we're working in coordination with the Office of Cable Television, Film, Music and Entertainment. Sorry, I got it. Did I get it, Patrick? Angie Gates will kick me in the shin for not getting that exactly right. It's called the Encore program. And what we're doing in all 4 quadrants of the city is we're going to have different venues like the Wharf, which is going to make space available for artists to perform for nearly no cost. So instead of having to worry about how you're going to pay for the production, artists will actually be able to focus in on how they promote their show and what their show is going to be about. So the Encore program is another great program. Now again, all of these programs are listed at obviouslydc.com, so make sure you check them out. I'm just giving you some of them. There's a whole lot more, and over the course of the year, we'll actually keep rolling more programs out. So what I wanted to make sure that we emphasize today, because I won't go through every single program, although the chairman said I could have 3 hours. I won't go through every single program, but I want to make sure that you all promote obviouslydc.com, that we actually work together, because I know through the grant programs that you have, we'd love to list them to really make it a one-stop shop for artists, creatives, musicians to come and actually, we consider them small business owners in and of themselves, whether they're a sole proprietor or they employ others. We want to make sure that not only do they look to obviouslydc.com for the programs and the grants that you may have, but they also take advantage of the ones that DEMPET has. So that's my ask to the commission today, that you work with us over the next few weeks to make sure that your grants are also listed there. Now, what we do is we don't want to, we don't need to look at the applications. We don't need to see anything. Obviouslydc.com is really just a brochure, right? And it will guide people to the agency that is administering that program. So really, there's no other visibility that we have into it except the promotion value of it. So I wanted to make that ask of you. And then also, let's just keep finding more ways to work together. The mayor emphasized art all night, art all weekend. I was there on Friday night down in Anacostia in the Arts District, bending some glass, some neon glass. Believe it or not, I did that. I will tell you that the glass did not survive the night. I twisted it a little bit too hard. I named the piece, Don't Get It Twisted. I wish I brought it with me today, but I didn't. But on Saturday night, Lauren and I were actually tearing it up, believe it or not. She made me dance in the Allery, which is a great collaboration. It was the Department of Small Local Business Development, the Commission on Arts and Humanities, and even our Department of Public Works. So my other ask is that we just continue to find ways to work together, because when we do, what our residents see is a wonderful experience. Who does all the work behind the scenes? They don't really care about. What I saw on Saturday night was people just either coming directly to the Allery or passing by the Allery and jumping in to enjoy the good time that they were having. So with that, I'll take any questions that you have. You know what your marching orders are. If you have the ability to tweet, to post on Facebook, post on social media, make a mural out of it, obviously DCA.com. That's where we want everybody to know that resources are there for you to not only support your business, but grow your business and make sure that we keep this creative economy as vibrant as we can. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Well, as you know, I had the benefit of us meeting earlier to plot these things out. So know that we are fully committed to this. And we will, in the 2 weeks, get done the first step in this journey together. But this is exactly what, there are many resources around the city, and oftentimes they're in competition. And we don't want to be guilty of that. So we want to work with you so that we can bolster serving our constituents in the right sort of way.
Absolutely. And I think, like you said, we'll leave the competition to all the great artists and creatives who come to us for these grants. That's where the competition lies. In terms of us promoting it, we want everybody to know about it. The mayor always says that the worst program is the secret program. She wants everybody to know about all of the work that we have done together.
Exactly. Good. Thank you. Any questions? Thank you, sir. We appreciate it. Before I go to my report, we have a couple of more of our council members who join us, Trayon White and Kenyon McDuffie. Thank you very much for being here. The Commission's final meeting of the fiscal year is both special and significant. It is at this meeting that our Board of Commissioners will approve the majority of grant awards for fiscal year 2023, totaling almost $35 million. Totaling almost $35 million. Before we do that, however, I want to take a moment to reflect and report on the agency's accomplishments in the past fiscal year. In the spirit of accountability, a year ago in August, I committed to some things, and I'm actually going to revive those charts and comment on how I've done. Of course, I wouldn't have done that if I didn't think we've done a good job, but accountability is accountability. So, Patrick, why don't you start the slides? When I spoke, well, this is reviewing our collective agenda going forward. Next slide. When I spoke to you back in August, at the August meeting, I said that based on my conversations with commissioners and staff and others, that there were 3 pillars to what I called our collective agenda that we wanted to work on. The first was the notion of governance and a recognition that even though this agency has some independence, that there's a lot of interdependence, that we have commissioner to staff, the commission to the mayor's office, the commission to the city council, and that I was determined for us to make that interdependence true and real and powerful. The second was our strategic plan. We went through a laborious process, and many times these plans are put on a shelf, never to be seen again. I was determined for us to implement that plan. And the third was the Task Force on Equity and Inclusion and Belonging, which I chaired and many of the colleagues in the room were a part of, came up with 44 recommendations to really catapult this agency with respect to equity and diversity relative to any other state agency. And we were determined to move more aggressively with those recommendations than we had to date. So those are the 3 things that I committed to. At some level of detail on the first one, on the governance, to fully recognize the interdependence, like I said before, to enhance our bylaws to reflect that, to do a board retreat so that the commissioners and the staff would come together in a way that perhaps we hadn't before, to do a number of social events so that we could get to know each other better, staff to staff, commissioners to staff, and commissioners to commissioners. to have our committee assignments to operate in a different way. Historically, the chair of the commission appointed people to committees and appointed the chairs of the committee. I decided we would do a democratic process, where if you wanted to be on the committee, you volunteered, and once that group got together, they would elect their chair. I know it sounds crazy, but that's something we decided to do, to democratize the process. To have quarterly one-on-one meetings between the chair and the commissioners, and to re-engage, at least at the Mayor's Arts Awards, in a way we hadn't before. So, report card time. Next slide. We adopted new bylaws in March of 2022. We held our board retreat in January of 2022. We've had a number of social events throughout the year, hosted by me, but for the commissioners and the staff. We did the assignments to the committees determining people's interests and their skill level, and we participated in the Mayor's Arts Award for the last 2 years. Now, that may sound like not much, but before that, we weren't really participating. So just participating in making a presentation meant something, but I think with what the deputy mayor has talked about, we want to be yet more involved with the work that the mayor's office is doing. I'll also add that by virtue of this presentation, this is another interdependence recognition. And we've invited council members to our exhibitions in the past, and I'm delighted that you showed up to the meeting today, so thank you. All of this is in the spirit of driving this interdependence in a different way. I must admit, I didn't quite make my quarterly reviews with all of the commissioners, but I promise next year to do better. The next item was strategic plan. To have more GOS funding opportunities to small organizations so that they are not bound by money being earmarked for a certain program, but rather they could use that money to build their capacity. Facilitating ways to support them beyond just the grants. More intentional diversification of our panels. There was a lot of conversation about some people who couldn't afford to sit on the panel because their panelists weren't paid at the time of day didn't work, et cetera. Showcase grantees at our monthly meetings, and you saw the band that did it. We didn't just do this for you today. Every meeting now we have one of our artists to present to us as well. A truth and reconciliation mantra in the diversity space. And that's one of the things that we're still working on. Just not quite ready for prime time, but a lot of progress is made there. This whole creative economy, I want to create a working group around that. And then aggressive communication plan, because there are many things that the commission did and has done that nobody knows about. And there's more we could do, but we certainly could toot our horn a little bit better about that, which we do, so people understand we could do more. So we wanted a more aggressive communications plan. Report card. We expanded our GOS allocation. We have capacity building initiatives that we put in place, including creating this mentor protege program where 85 organizations, large and small, are working with each other to help build capacity. A large organization is helping a small one understand how to build a board. A small organization is helping a large one understand how to do innovative programming on a dime. And this exchange we found to be very constructive, and we weren't sure what the take would be on it. Terrell was a little concerned that we wouldn't get anybody to sign up, but we had 85 participants in the program, and it'll be even bigger next year. Ongoing showcasing our grants, as you saw today, will continue, and we did contract a PR agency to help us develop our communications plan and our PR better. They were very involved in Art All Night, so if you saw hats and, what do you call those things, hoodies and all of that, and many people out there pushing our paperwork and our collateral, that was with the aid of that PR agency. The Truth and Reconciliation Mantra, like I said before, is in process, but you will see it soon, and the Creative Economy Working Group will be created as well. Also, I wanted to talk a little bit about how we did change the funding allocation. In this chart, I'm not trying to be the ex-consultant who must have a chart, but I'm the ex-consultant who must have a chart. The blue line here is the funding for those organizations that were not a part of the NACOC organization when it was established in FY20. And the red are the ones that were the NACOC. What you see is, up until FY19, they moved along at the same pace. The NACOC organizations were getting more money because they're large organizations, et cetera, but they're moving at the same pace. When that legislation was put in place, you see a precipitous spike in the funding that goes to the NACOC organizations, and you see a flattening of the funding that went to the non-NACOC. This was the equity problem we wanted to solve. And as you see, as we return back to FY22 with our new funding in place, the NACOC organizations still get more money than the non-NACOC do, but in a way that makes sense, in a way that's more equitable. And there's a lot of conversation. There's been some consternation. But I can tell you the number of organizations that have come to many of us and talked about the difference this funding has made in their programs, things they were able to do that they couldn't do, people they were able to hire they couldn't before. So we are convinced that though it was a struggle and though it did cause some pain to some organizations, the net for the city and for the ecosystem of arts and humanities in this city has been very positive. So I just wanted to show you the numbers. There's a lot of conversation, there's a lot of anecdotes, there's a lot of qualitative things people say, but this is what the numbers show. So I wanted to show you that. More on the strategic plan update and capacity building. Our mantra now is not just to give you fish, but to teach you how to fish. If we want real sustainability in these organizations, you can't just always give them the money and then not help them build their ability to get the money themselves. So that doesn't mean we're not giving money. We're both giving money and we're giving other resources that help them to generate money on their own. The mentor protege program I told you about, had 85 organizations participating, and each of them are assigned to a community of practice around a specific capacity building theme and work with their mentor organization. And we're finding great results out of it already. So we are committed to that as well. Task force recommendations, I said that actions and timelines would be resourced because 44 is a long list. We recognize it couldn't all get done in 1 year and not everything is equally important, but we hadn't quite resourced the actions in the way that we needed to. And we certainly hadn't aligned what we could do with the actual bandwidth of the staff and the capacity of the staff so as not to overtax the staff. So where are we on that? We have actions and timelines. We've aligned it with the staff's bandwidth and capacity. It's an ongoing, continuous process. The Office of Racial Equity has chosen us to be a part of the district's second racial equity cohort in FY23, and we take that as a moment of pride for us. But more, if I go into more accomplishments, next page. On the grants side, our FY22 grants increased by 27% over FY21 due to some cost savings on the administrative side and the increases that came to our budget through the City Council. So thank you very much for that. In FY22, 22 new grantees received a combined $2.81 million through this expanded program. One of our measures of success was not just that the same people get more money, but that some new people get some money. And so this we were able to achieve. And 22 may sound like a small number, but if you're in one of those 22, it's a big number for you. Awards 4, 5, 7, and 8, which have historically not been resourced and funded in the way that others have, we got an increase of $5.4 million in grant awards. So again, a measure of our success is that we're spreading the wealth in a way that we hadn't before. On the next slide on COVID relief, the COVID Relief and Recovery Fund awarded one-time grants of $7,000 to each of 340 DC artists, over $2.2 million in total. And if you're in that 340, that was very meaningful to you. And $7,000 can go a long way when we need that sort of relief. Also, we awarded one-time grants of $20,000 to 30 nonprofit cultural organizations not currently funded by the Commission. So this is incremental things that we're doing and different things that we're doing. Next slide. We've talked about this a little bit, the Art All Night partnership and the fact that we've nearly doubled our contribution there. And we were out there for the weekend having a good time, and it was great. MOU with the Mayor's Office on Community Affairs beginning in FY23 to support various cultural events produced by the various community affairs offices. And we're working this MOU with MOCA. Next page. Color the Curb. This is a program that has shown great success in reducing accidents in certain areas by adding art to those intersections. We partner with DDOT and DCPS to identify additional locations, so we'll roll it out in a bigger way going forward. An MOU with the DC Library, this new partnership allowing for collaborative cultural programming to be developed and presented free for district residents and visitors. So these are some of the things that we've been able to get done in the first year. There's a lot more we want to do. And I will dare to share my long-term vision, not in writing, so that's why you see nothing up there, but just in spoken word. First, my goal, and I've said this before, is for this agency to become the Ford Foundation equivalent of state arts agencies. There's no reason we can't. We've had many conversations with the people at Ford Foundation to give us hints of how we can do that. As we've said many times, of the state arts agencies, we are the largest per capita funder across the country, by far. it's $57 or something like that per resident. The next one is like $12. It's just amazing. So there's got to be a lot more we can do with that much more money that other people have, not in absolute dollars, but in per resident dollars. So what I would aspire to is that we could create our own foundation, our own 501c3. So small arts organizations here that don't have a 501c3 and therefore can't take tax deductible dollars from their donors can do it through us. We'll be that fiscal sponsor. So that's the goal in my mind, just in my feeble mind. We'll see if we can make it happen in some sort of way. The second thing is, and this is really sort of Herculean, I think that starting with Art All Night and building that as we have before, I think that we can create a DC version of Art Basel. And when I see that, and many of you know I spent many years in New York, and I'm that sort of New York art bigot to a large extent, and all of the cities are just provinces and can't do anything. What I've seen in this city, and as far as art and exposure and creativity and artists, is amazing. It's phenomenal, it's innovative, it's diverse because of the various international cultures we have here. So we are going to make our equivalent of Art Basel here in Washington, D.C. So that's the end of my presentation. We have a lot more work ahead of us, but a lot has been accomplished. And with that, I will turn it over to, for the director's report, to David.
Thank you, Reggie. For those who are listening in, I am a white middle-aged man with very dashing gray hair. I'm wearing a blue suit and a pink shirt.
I didn't know we had to tell our age.
Okay, I'm a teenager again. So thanks so much, Reggie. So I think I went through a similar process to you, that as I began to put the director's notes together, it became a retrospective. So I'm not going to go through everything. I did want to frame it. You had mentioned the strategic plan and the fact that many strategic plans sit on shelves gathering dust. And so I did want to blow the dust off it a little bit and frame the director's notes with 5 focus areas that are identified in the strategic plan. You've spoken to most of them, the idea of idea and how important it is to us as an agency and to our work. Oftentimes, we talk about equity, and it is a veneer, and I think there's a genuine commitment at the agency to have it be embedded and part of the fabric of everything we do, every decision we make, every conversation we have, that somebody in the room, hopefully all of us in the room, are asking the questions, how do we reach those who have not yet had access to the dollars, the support, and to the guidance that we can give many arts organizations and individuals in the city. In terms of pandemic recovery, many governments are saying, okay, the pandemic's over, no more public emergency, let's get on with it. It's known that the arts are often the last industry to rebound in times of financial downturn or uncertainty. And so I greatly appreciate the commitment of the Commission in continuing to provide relief to individual artists, to organizations. Reggie referenced the Relief and Recovery Fund for individuals. He also referenced the similar fund for organizations that brought 22 brand spanking new organizations to us, which is really, really wonderful. We also had the Facilities and Buildings Relief Grant. We had it for a second year, funded 112 organizations, helping them pay their mortgage or rent. And later this month, later next month, we are planning on pushing a third year of that grant program out. Again, to acknowledging that it is taking a minute for everyone to get back on their feet. Community awareness and connectedness, that's an ongoing priority for us. All of the grant managers have, as one of their SMART goals, community engagement, and that is part of the work that we do beyond moving paper around and working with sister agencies. It is really an intrinsic part and an important part of what it is we do. You've mentioned district government alignment and all of the wonderful work that that happened this past weekend with DSLBD, the work with Murals DC and DPW and the Allery, the Color the Curb with DDOT, all of the great work, particularly in the public art department, that is done. So we'll continue to build on those programs and beyond. And then the final focus of the strategic plan is around governance and organizational structure. We are very blessed that we have a relatively new HR specialist, Denise Jackson. She's there at the back of the room, who has really been wonderful. She's only been with us 3 or 4 months, but has already done a deep dive into getting a sense of the pulse of us as a collective staff and also as individuals. I think we're all a bit battered, both physically and psychologically after the pandemic. And so we really want to be mindful about how we care for one another in our everyday work lives. And so Denise will be a great resource, or is a great resource, and will continue to be a great resource to us as we move forward as an agency with this ambitious workload we have ahead. So,
Sorry.
So I will leave it there and turn it back to you, Reggie.
Great, thank you. And if there are questions, just raise your hand or throw something at me or something like that. Finance report, finance update. Kymber?
Good evening. I'm Kymber Menkiti and the treasurer for the commission. So the updates, really we get to do the highlights from the fiscal year 2022 as we close it out on Friday. So on this last fiscal year, the agency saw an opportunity to increase its budget with the use of one-time federal grant funding and reserve funds from the agency's fund balance totaling over $11.7 million. So how did that shake out, right? What are the top things you need to know? CHS has awarded the agency's largest ever in the history of the organization. CAH issued $39 million in purchase orders to date, which was an increase of over 36% over fiscal year 2021, which would total 29.4. So I'm a business person, but this gets me really excited. When we start to see these double-digit numbers, a 36% increase in the funds that were able to go back out the door. When you look at what that was overall, we saw a 31% increase in the budget, the $11.7 million. And the amount of those dollars that stayed in and were able to go back out as grants. Legislation allows the commission to allocate no more than 22% of the total budget to administrative cost. We actually reduced that allocation to 15%. So if you're doing fast math, that means we had 85% of the budget that went back out as grants. And you saw that, right? What were the major program areas? That was GOS with a 41% increase, facilities and building grants with a 40% increase, and relief recovery, which saw a 74% increase. And you saw the breakdown of that. I know, I'm like, thank you. So some really exciting times of increase, and most importantly, that those were dollars that were able to get out to both new grant recipients and a much broader base of recipients across our city. So an exciting report from the finance team. Any questions?
Good. Can we have more next year?
Yes, right. We're looking to this side of the room.
Can we have more next year? I'm looking at our city council members.
Brian, yes, anything you want to add?
So if we can just by keeping the good news and keeping the party going, excuse me. My name is Brian Allende. I'm the resource allocation officer for the Commission on the Arts and Humanities. I'm wearing a gray suit with a blue and gray tie. I just wanted to also, by way of reporting on the relief grants, because it's such, we see the need and the importance of it, that of the 340 that Reggie reported in terms of grants going out the door, payments, and I give the credit to Melissa. Melissa Leonard, are you here? Can you please wave, let everyone? Melissa has single-handedly been the catalyst to getting 250 grants out the door. When I say out the door, I mean payments are in the mail.
Can I interrupt you here? So I impress upon the team. It's wonderful to talk about the process of things in process, but if people haven't gotten the money, you haven't done anything. So we are making sure we're focused on, if I'm the person sitting there waiting for my money, I don't want to hear the money is coming while my rent is due and I'm about to be evicted and I can't eat, right? So we are really focused on our constituents and being real and pragmatic and getting the money to them. So thank you to the team for pushing in that way.
Back to you.
Oh, is that it? Any questions? So I think we have another one of our incoming council members, Zachary Parker, who has arrived. Thank you. Welcome. And Matt Fruman.
$11,000 maximum award is reduced from the year before, which I believe is about $12,000. And the reason we did that is because it may be a little less, but we are able to fund more people. And that is critical at this state. $5,000 minimum award and $11,000 maximum award. The increased budget from 3.1 million to 3.145 million because our grants managers know they want more money. They ask for it, and we're going to do everything we can to give it to them. It represents a 20% increase in this particular grants funding and over FY22. I'd like to introduce Kelly Kaliba, our, where are you? Oh, there you are. You moved. Okay.
I was very quick.
All right.
Hi, everyone. My name is Carrie Kaliba. I am one of the grant managers for the Arts and Humanities Fellowship Program, along with the rest of my team. I'm here to walk you through the actual spreadsheet just down a little bit further, and I'll try and talk you through all these lovely cells that we have. So this is a snapshot of our fellowship program. As Commissioner Wharton pointed out, we had 26 panels and 597 applicants. So a heavy lift, but a very worthy one. So in the top left there, you can see a breakdown of our funding formula. That's that percentile calculation that we applied to the raw scores that we received from the panelists, and how we then applied funding to that percentile ranking. So we've got our 100th percentile down through the 30th percentile where we pulled a cutoff. And then the award amount that was applied to each percentile ranking. And then the far right column there, you can see the number of awardees who are receiving that award amount. In the center there, you can see a breakdown of those 26 panels that we held, the number of applicants that were reviewed in each one, how many awards were awarded out of each cohort, and then the total dollar amount going to each panel, coming down to our grand total of our 3.145 million request and funding just over 70% of our applicants. And then the final far right, we have the fellowship awards per ward. This is our ward representation breakdown. On the left-hand side, you can see the number of applicants we received from each ward, the percentage of that total that they represent. And then on the awardees side, you can see the number that we are awarding, what percentage that represents, and what proportion of the total awardees that we get. As you can see there, our representation of applicants and awardees is pretty close to equal, which is really lovely to see, that we do not have any disproportionate awarding to any one ward.
Could I just pause there? Because with putting the equity lens on, I want to punctuate here that at the end of the day, even though the applicants across the various wards may have differed, and we're going to work on making sure we get more people engaged. At the end of the day, the percentage allocations of who got money was very much aligned with who applied. It's not as though 5% applied, but 80% of them got the money. The percentages aligned, those two columns aligned. That's important for us to see and for us to check. So one problem we don't have is misalignment of awardees. The problem we're trying to address now is get more people to apply.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to make that point.
We're very excited about that. I'm very excited about the alignment. I'm very pleased to see that it matches. And then down at the bottom left, just a very quick snapshot view for you of where we were last year with 350 funded applicants, and this year 421. As you can see, that there was a real surge both in applicants and in potential awardees. And I think that covers everything from me. Thank you.
Do the commissioners have any questions? I'd like to, Reggie, if you approve, go through all of the grants and then have a final vote on it at that point. Are there any
No one
questions on
objects.
this
That's fine.
particular one, though? Go ahead.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly.
Yeah. For those of you who are out here,
You have no idea how much work went into creating that one chart, so.
you have no idea, but we did it. And I'm be honest with you, this group worked with me all day and most of the night. Okay, for those of you who were out here this summer at the beach and lying around and having a good time, we did 50 panels this summer. 50, 50, with 215 panelists. That's a lot.
And how long are those panels? How long during the day? How many hours?
All day.
Is it all day
They
panels?
start at 9 and most of them ended 4 or 5. Only this time we're able to pay our panelists.
Yes.
Okay. All right, our next grant is the Projects, Events, and Festivals for Individuals. We call it PEF-I. It's a competitive grant, competitive and reviewed by peer review panelists on artistic content, idea, efforts, district impact, and project management. The Projects, Events, and Festivals grant program supports individuals who execute projects that promote art and humanities activities to a diverse range of communities within the District of Columbia. The application is open to all district residents, and they may apply for a project support of up to $10,000. The goals of PEF for individuals is to provide access to high-quality arts and humanities experiences for all District of Columbia residents, improve quality of life by supporting vibrant community projects within the arts and humanities, support as many artists and humanities practitioners as possible, and to provide resources through workshops, office hours, and outreach to ensure equitable access across all wards. Our grant managers are there in the office, and they are willing to and do regularly talk to all of our applicants, anybody who has a question about a grant. So they really do put in a lot of work in making sure everybody gets the correct information. In 21, we awarded $308,000. 2022, $393,000, and in 2023, our budget is $500,000, $500,000. We have 60 proposed awardees, and we have proposed on here because we need to vote on it. And that's about the same that we did in FY22. Of course, with projects, events, and festivals, you know that COVID had to make a difference because we couldn't all be together in one place at the same time. The award formulation is raw scores are used to determine percentile ranking. A funding formula is created to apply proportionally across all 4 panel cohorts. The maximum and minimum award amounts are determined based on the budget of $500,000. Grant managers adjust formulas for each panel cohort based on natural breaks, variances in rankings, and when you see the spreadsheet, you'll see where those breaks are. Consulting panelists' responses to applications. Many times we have to ask the panelists, explain why you voted this way or what were the nuances in your thought process. The award recommendation is to fund 60 of the 72 applicants with a $10,000 maximum award, which is an increase from $7,500 from last year. To increase the budget from $500,000 to $527,000, again, our grants managers asked for more. If we've got it, they've got it. Represents a 22% increase in PEF-I funding over FY22. And now we'd like to hear from our grants manager.
Good evening, commissioners, colleagues, and guests.
You are?
My name is Travis Marcus. I am the grants manager for the Project Events and Festivals for Individuals. So I just want to start up in the left-hand corner. You'll see of the 72 that applied, 60 will be proposed for funding. 32 of which scored between 86 and 100 points, and 28 scored between 75 and 85. Right in the middle column there, you'll see all of the awards broken down by discipline. So again, 60 of the 72 will be funded at $527,141, which funds right around 83% of the total applicants. Over on the far right-hand corner, you'll see the awards broken down per ward. So you'll see how many of them applied per ward, how many will be funded per ward, and the total amount that goes to applicants in each ward. Down towards the bottom left-hand corner, you'll see that in FY22, we had a total of 61 applicants who were funded at just under $400,000. This year, we will have 60 funded, just over $525,000. And again, the reason for that, as Commissioner stated, is because the grant award has since went up to $10,000 for the max amount, which was $7,500 last year. Down in the bottom left-hand corner, you will see that of the 60 that are being funded, 41 did receive this grant in previous years. 19 have never received this grant. And just below that, 53 of the 60 that are being funded did receive a grant within the commission, but not necessarily this project, Events and Festivals grant, while we have 7 that are absolutely new to the commission altogether. At this time, I'll pass it over to my colleague.
Yeah, I'll make my commentary again.
Oh, sorry.
No. The notion that we didn't just continue to give money to the same people. There are a bunch of new people that came into the mix, which is these are the metrics we have in our mind around equity, and we are living those metrics.
I was about to say, my turn again. Thank you so much. Okay, that was PEF individuals. Now we're going to go to PEF organizations, okay? PEF meaning projects, events, and festivals for organizations. CAH's project-based grants are competitive and reviewed by peer review panelists in their artistic content, idea efforts, district impact, and organizational management. The organizations in receipt of general operating support may be restricted from receiving certain combinations of project grants. The restriction is placed to allow for a greater number of organizations to access these grant opportunities. This particular grant program, we'll call it PEF for organizations, offers support to qualified nonprofit organizations to develop exemplary programs that promote arts and humanities activities to a diverse range of communities within the District of Columbia. In FY23, the maximum request amount was increased from $15,000 to $20,000. The program goals: provide access to high-quality arts and humanities experiences to all District of Columbia residents, improve the quality of life of district residents and visitors by supporting vibrant community projects, support as many artists and humanities practitioners as possible, to provide resources through workshops, office hours, and outreach to ensure equitable access across all 8 wards. The allocated budget amount for FY23 is $550,000, which is an increase over FY22, which was $474,000. In FY22 versus 23, we now have 46 applicants, of which 34 will be proposed for awards. The award formulations, I'm not even going to read this, guys. We've read this before. So I am going to ask Robert to take it away.
Sure, and thank you, Commissioner Wharton. As we go to the next, or if you scroll down just a little bit more, similar to what Travis presented previously, it'll be the same thing, but for the organizations. Yeah.
Spreadsheet, yeah, spreadsheet. There
we go.
Okay.
All right, so similar to with what Travis said previously, on the top left corner, you'll see of the awardees, the scores that they got from the panel. So in the first row, you have 86. Oh, also, I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Robert Nunez. Just quickly do this. My pronouns are he, him, his. I'm African-American and Bolivian man. And now, back to the spreadsheet.
Back to the spreadsheet.
Yeah. So again, so the first row on the top left corner, you'll see that 25 of the 34 awardees scored between 86 and 100 being the highest scores. And then right below that, you have 9 of the grantees scoring between 75 to 85. In the middle section, you'll see of the both who applied and also soon to be awarded, the disciplines that they identify as doing. And then on the far right, you'll see the ward representation, the first half showing of the applicants who applied, and then the second half showing of them who were awarded, and then also the percentage with that as well. Going back to the left side in the middle, you'll see the comparison from how many we funded and how much from FY22 to FY23. It was 38 last year, or FY22, and then this year being 34. And then on the bottom left, you'll see of the PEF awardees this year, 22 were previous project events or festivals organization grantees, and then 10 of them were new project events or festivals grantees who applied this year. And in the second half, you'll see that 27 of them were previous CH grantees, while 7 are completely new to the agency. And that's about it.
Commissioners, are there any questions?
Any questions?
Everybody's following?
Continue.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, guys. Next up, East Arts, formerly called East of the River. The project-based grant is the competitive, and it's reviewed by the peer reviews, as are the other grants. Here, okay, great. The grant program description: the East Arts grant support arts and humanities projects for nonprofit organizations with budgets under $500,000 that are identified as BIPOC-centered organizations, Black, Indigenous, and people of color. Formerly, the East of the River grant included organizations located in only Wards 7 and 8. The new East Arts grant broadens its reach to include organizations headquartered in the northeast and southeast quadrants of the city, because as all of you know, we've had some changes to the wards. The grant program goals to provide access to high-quality arts and humanities experiences by organizations headquartered in the northeast and southeast quadrants of the District of Columbia, award organizations based on the merits of their work, support project applications submitted by both arts, humanities, and non-arts and humanities organizations. In FY23, our budget is $1 million, which of course is an increase over FY22 when it was $839, and FY21 when it was $706. For FY23, we had 36 applicants, and of those applicants, we're going to propose 34 receive awards. Our award recommendation is to fund 34 applicants with a $35,000 maximum award, increase the budget from $1 million to $1.38, represents a 13.6 increase in East Arts funding over FY22. Our grants manager, Khalid, will take you through the spreadsheet.
Good afternoon. My name is Khalid Randolph, and I'm a Black male wearing a blue shirt with a brown sports jacket. The score in the top left-hand corner, top left, upper left-hand corner, you see the funding amount, score range. The first is 88 to 97% of 15 grantees. The second is 74 to 87%. There were 87 to 87%. There were 18 grantees. The middle column is, you can see all our disciplines spread out. And the last column is awards per ward. So you'll see that wards 5, 6, 7, and 8 are awarded. And that's because East Arts is for Southeast and Northeast of DC. The total awards, in the left-hand corner, left middle corner is FY22 funding. We funded 33 awards, in this FY23 we'll fund 33 also. The total amount was 897, 392 for the 33 in FY22, and 1,038,000 for FY23. If you go to the next, the bottom left corner, bottom left side, we see previous grantees, the 28 we had, and we have 5 new ones there. So it's proud to say that the relief and recovery and different programs that we had brought in new grantees there. We had a lot of funding for the grantees because of the score. They were really took advantage of the workshops and the calling the grant managers and getting support. So the scores are pretty high.
Okay, any questions? Hang in there with me. We've only got 2 more to go. Thank you, Khalid. Thank you. Okay, our next one is AHEP, Arts and Humanities Education Project. Oh, Patrick, you're right there. The cohorts are in school, professional development, arts partners, out of school time, and older adult education. The project-based grants are competitive, as are all of them, and reviewed by peer review panelists on their artistic content, idea efforts, district impact, and organizational management. The grant program, Arts and Humanities Education Projects, supports in-school and out-of-school time arts, school time arts and humanities projects for youth in preschool through high school settings and older adults of 50 plus. The grant also supports professional development opportunities for classroom educators. The project must target DC-based educators, instructional staff, or teaching artists. The maximum award increased from $20,000 in FY22 to $30,000 for FY23. The goals are to provide access to high-quality arts and humanities education experiences that work to advance student academic achievement in the District of Columbia, strengthen the value of an arts and humanities education as a critical component of a student's broader education, support activities that are consistent with local and national learning standards for arts and humanities, to provide resources through workshops, office hours, and outreach. The allocated budget amount for FY23 is $600,000, which is an increase over the $460,000 that was awarded in '22 and the $396,000 that was awarded in '21. There were 39 eligible applicants. We are proposing 25 be awarded for FY23. I'm not going to read the award formulation again. You all know that by heart now. Okay, the award recommendation is that funding requesting be in the amount of $596,588 based on the merit of the application submitted, include only Ward 7 applicant with a score of 78.73 at 70% of the request amount. And we did that because we have to look at how the grants are divided by ward and make sure that we have adequate representation in all wards. Fund a total of 25 applicants across both cohorts. Camille Ashford.
Thank you. So as it was just stated, I'm Camille Ashford, and I would like to share with you more about the AHEP program. So as you can see, and thank you so much for breaking that down for us. As you can see in the top upper left-hand corner, 6 of the applicants scores ranges from 89 to 94, and 19 fall into the range of 79 to 88. In the middle, you'll see a breakdown of the cohorts that applied for this grant. Moving on to the right-hand corner, you will see a breakdown of the wards. So we do have representation from every ward that applied for this grant. And at the bottom, you will see that I am proposing that we fund the same amount of applicants as last year. So last year we funded 25, and this year we are proposing 25 again. However, at larger amounts. Last year, a total of $460,000 was allocated for this grant, and this year I'm proposing $596,588, as has been stated before. Also, this year we received 5 new applications, so I'm just excited about the progress that we're seeing with the AHEP program. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions from the commissioners? Okay, our last grant. Hang in there, guys. Okay, field trip experiences. We didn't have field trip experiences for quite a while because of COVID. No one was going anywhere. As you all know, we were just staying in the house. It's a project-based grant. It supports the cost of field trip tickets, professional development opportunities for classroom educators, and or pre-post field trip workshops for students. Funding may also be allocated to necessary personnel support for the planning and implementation of the program. Organizations may apply for project support of up to $50,000. There's no match requirement on this. The allocated budget amount for FY23 is $500,000, which compares to the FY22 of $515,000 that was actually awarded. We didn't have the program at all in FY21, and in FY20, it was $995,000 that was awarded. Excuse me. The number of applicants was 29, and we are proposing 22 be awarded. The budget was increased from $500,000 to $559,000. Again, our grants managers asked for more. And it's to allow funding more broadly. What we want to do many, many times is lessen the total amount, but increase the number of awardees. It's the depth versus breadth conversation. One applicant is the only Ward 8 applicant. One applicant is new to the program. Fund a total of 22 applicants across both cohorts. And I'd like our grants manager, Allery, to take it from here.
Yes, good evening. My name is Allery Clark, and I'm the grant manager for Field Trip Experiences. So similar to the other grant programs that have been presented today, you'll see on the left the score ranges. The recommendation is to award 22 applicants, and so that's the breakdown of the scores that were received and how many, most of them getting between the 82 to 89 score. The middle, you'll see again the discipline and the number of applicants and the recommendation for how many of those in the different disciplines will be awarded. And then again, on the right, the awards and the breakdown and the percentage of not only who applied, but what the percentage of the awards look like for 22. And as you can also see in the middle, funding 22 of the 25 applicants is an 88% funding rate. For FY22, we funded 15 awards at $515,000, as Gretchen just mentioned. And then this year, the recommendation is to fund more, 22 awards at $559,410. 16 of the 22 awardees are previous field trip grantees, but 6 of them are actually new to the program and will receive this grant for the first time. 21 are previous CAH grantees, and 1 has never received a CAH grant before.
That's amazing. We like new grantees. Thank you so much, Allery. And commissioners, are there any questions? Natalie?
I got 2 mics. Okay, great. So thank you for everybody who's on the grants committee, because I know that's the majority of what we're doing. So I think that the geographic distribution is still way off. So, and I wonder what are the grant managers, or what is this committee doing to make sure, like on the front end, like we can talk about how the panels went and blah, 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 but on the front end, how do we ensure better geographic distribution? And also, are we gonna get a chart that gives the demographic data at some point about who's getting the grants? Because
we have that information, we just didn't show it here. It would have.
Racial demographics, yeah. So can we see that? Like when we see, like.
We don't have it by racial demographic for each particular grant. We do have the ward grants. We do have the ward breakdown for each particular one.
Yeah, because if we are doing leading with equity, we want to know who's getting the grants. And, I'm thinking that it should be part of how we hold ourselves accountable. So like how people do on the panels is one thing, right? But like how many people are applying? So we're still seeing we still have the East of the River, or the East Arts project, and it's still such a small, and it's the only thing that's sort of calling out by name, like these are the demographics that are underrepresented. So I'm wondering, how can we, this time next year, how can we assure that next time we'll, first of all, know who's applying and be accountable for the number of people who are applying in different groups?
One of the things that we're doing, and I think under Reggie's chairmanship, we have hired a PR firm. One of the things we need to do is make sure we have more applicants. If I look back, even the years I've been here, there are so many applicants from the same wards, but it's not a distribution across all 8 wards. And that's one thing we still have to work on. We have to get the word out to everybody that you need to apply for these grants. We have to get that out. So many people absolutely do not know. Some people don't know we exist. You know, I mean, I saw people at Art All Night, quite frankly, and I said, how many of you know about the Arts Commission? There were still people there who said to me, they weren't sure and didn't know about it. Did I see somebody's hand up a minute? Oh.
Well, I'm not,
Hold on
can I
1 second.
respond before we
Yeah.
call the audience?
Yeah, the commissioners first.
We worked very hard to get to this place, but we're nowhere near where we need to be on equity, because the thing that we keep talking about is what you just said. A lot of people are not applying. Equity really is based on access. And if people don't have access to the process, if they don't understand they have that ability to have access to the process, and if they venture to wet their feet to get in the process, and it's so off-putting with all the stuff that we require, it discourages them from trying again, and the word spreads, it's no use. Now, to our credit and to the credit of the staff and everyone else, we've come a long way in a year, because I've had many people walk up who said, I applied for the first time. I applied a long time ago and I gave up because I kept getting, rejected, and I applied this time and I got it. And then people who got the grants and they were increased. Reggie spoke to it, but I think you really need to understand there's an amazing lift in how much they're getting and how it is actually changing their lives, hiring new people, adding programs, doing things. But we still need demographics, and we need to work on the issue of access. And quite frankly, we have to have that demographic of not just the wards and the parts of town, and not just the small groups and the big groups, but we need to know who in the city is getting the grants. In racial terms, is it Black, is it Latina? Do we need to do better with that? Should we increase how we do that? I mean, we have to work that out, because if they don't feel like they have access, then we can't even be a part of the equity. So I'm just saying, I'm really, complimenting all of us. I feel real proud and everything, but I don't want anybody to think that we don't know that we have a long way to go.
One of the things we did this time is we actually put a demographic questionnaire in the applications, that front-ended our applications, especially for organizations, because we want to make sure that there is equity within the organizations. We want to get down to not just how many people you've hired that across the racial groups, but what positions are they in? It's one thing to tell me that you as a large organization have hired 50 people and that they are across all races, but it's not good enough if they're not in senior positions or management positions. So we actually do have the front end of our applications asking those kinds of questions, and hopefully we will be able to roll that up, because we've now spent 1 year doing it and getting the applications in. So, yeah, so now we should.
I think the short of it is, we know we have a long way to go.
Yeah.
And the fact that at least once we have the applicants, we didn't show any bias in awards, that's the first step. Yeah. The fact that we call out the new applicants, new to the system, that's a good first step as well. But you're exactly right. We've got to look at the demographics, real demographics. We can't assume the ward is a proxy for demographics. We can't assume newness is a proxy for demographics either. And we're on that path to do it. But there's a commitment to do that. And I know some are tired of asking the question and not getting the answer. And so now we're going to provide the answer. And we're going to have that answer on the front end of the process. Those who have seen me in the meetings, I was frustrated that we learned about the demographics after we had made the awards, as opposed to that going into the conversation of who gets the awards. So we're
getting it. Like I said, we did put that demographic form in the front end of our application. So it's been there for a year now. So we should be able to roll up that information.
But it is a journey.
It is.
And I just wanted to say one other thing, like, especially in terms of like the field trip experience and the education projects. I mean, they're so skewed, to Ward 2 and Ward 3. And, a lot of that is, I believe is a function of people who have time, right, to really pursue. So so we really have to think aggressively, like in the next year. So like, I'm really looking forward to this time next year that we'll make some really huge, because we have to be really creative in how we get those numbers. I'm talking about like that first column.
Yeah.
Like that should look like the city. That first column should look like the city. So if that means cultivating future grantees that don't even realize that they're I mean, we have to be really aggressive about that.
I think Councilmember White had a question.
We can hear you. We can hear
You can hear me? Oh, I can't hear me, maybe. Now I can't see or hear. First I want to thank you guys for just explaining the process, which I didn't know a lot about the details about how we got to this. And it's amazing what can happen in a year if you focus on it, be intentional about equity. And just to hear that you are focusing on the new organizations being a part of these grant recipients. As a former executive director of a nonprofit, I applied previously, probably like, this is like 12 years ago. And it was extremely tough for me just to get in the room, just to get a grant, because I didn't have a strong grant writer, but I was working in 4 communities. I mean, every day, every night, just, man, working hard. But then I noticed that there were other organizations who had good grant writers and would get the grant. They would call me to partner with me because they wanted my youth in their organizations to get the grants. And I just wanted to know what were some of the barriers you heard over the years, and what some of the things that were changed to allow for people to get more access to this funding. And I did eventually get a grant through the DC Arts and Humanities Commission, so we were proud of that, and we kept it going for a few years. But it was after I was able to build capacity to even hire a grant writer to get the grant, although I was doing the work every day.
I can start it if you wish. It's a large extent, well, Hector, I can let you speak as well. The work that was done by the task force asked those questions of almost 900 of our grantees. And the 3 big things that came back was, first, the administrative issues and the barriers around clean hands and things like that. And we have not completely released clean hands, but we've certainly adjusted it so that it's more reasonable and people aren't just, pushed out because of that. The second thing was assistance in filling out the applications, because especially for artists, and I was an artist, so not all artists are incapable of filling out long forms, but that's not what artists do necessarily. So we help them. We have seminars, we have sessions, we have meetings with them to help them through the process. But then for those people that got extra capacity building money, they could hire a grant writer. They couldn't do that before. They didn't have the funds for it. So at least in those 3 areas, we're trying to address those issues. But Hector, you may have more.
Yes, there has been very much intention to reduce and make the application smaller, more comprehensive, in order to basically make it easier, particularly for individual artists who are seeking grants. And I think we were very successful this year in doing so by the number of artists that were granted funds, because we recognized that that was a very specific need. Reduce the complication of the application process.
One more quick point to that, and I won't grab the mic, but really quick, one of the things that I'm excited about is the number of applicants that went up this year. I look at this as an opportunity. Even the applicants who didn't get funded, I look at them as part of the CAH family, because we don't just let them walk out the door because they didn't get funded. We have an entire year to work with that applicant to make sure that next year they have the strongest application possible. And I think that's one of my commitments. That's one of all of our grant managers, that we make sure that we show up if you didn't get funding. So I apologize that didn't happen for you 12 years ago. But at this point, if you didn't get funding, you're going to get a phone call to say, hey, we have some feedback for you. How can we help? We're doing workshops. We're making things mandatory. We're making sure that all have the tools that they need to kind of beat those barriers. And that's one of my commitments as the senior grants officer. So. Okay.
In terms of formulating in the 22 budget, was in the admin section of the budget, get some consultants to help with the capacity building. I'm talking about organizations or individuals that can go out and engage the community. There may be some people that want to apply for the grants, but don't know how. Don't or not really know about the funding that's available. So there has to be something in from the administrative portion of the budget that will assist the community, regardless to where it is, that there's an announcement and that there's a go-to person that can help them complete the application process.
Well, you know, Brian, one of the things that came out of the task force recommendations was just that, that we have extra monies to hire people that are consultants or whatever, place them in the neighborhoods, have a lot of PR around coming in to that particular person, not just a group of people, but to that particular person with all of your information. So many of these talented artists out here don't have the ability to, or a computer or a printer, to be able to go online and actually apply for the application. So that's one of the recommendations that came out of the task force. So we have been talking through that to see if there's a way of doing that, actually having people in the community facilities so that people can come in and get assistance in applying for the grants.
So I'm going to play timekeeper. Otherwise, we'll be here all night. But Commissioner Masters-Berry suggested that we need the engagement of the council members in this. And similar to the Dancing with the Stars, how do you engage your communities? We need commissioners from the wards to engage with the wards. We need council members to engage, because that's the way that we'll get the word out. For us to send an email, or for me to get and do a broadcast, is not as meaningful as people that they know, they trust, that they have some connection to, that are doing that. So we really have to fan out into the community in a way we haven't before. That's on our list of things to do, but we need help from each and everyone, including the staff in your communities as well. And I know the staff do a lot of that. I saw it at Art All Night. I saw people who lived in a certain ward there for Art All Night. We just need to do more of that. So I'm going to move us on and take a motion from the chairperson of the committee on approving these grants.
I would like to move that the commission vote positively in accepting all of the recommendations of the 6 grants that we have just reviewed.
It doesn't need to be seconded, but there's time for discussion. Any discussion from the commissioners? If not, I will call the roll. We're voting on all of these grants together, and signify either A or nay, or no vote if you wish, as I call your name. Stacy? Cora? Maggie?
Yay.
Juanice? Natalie? Kymber? Mariah? Carla?
Yay.
Hector?
Yay.
Gretchen?
Yes.
It passes. Thank you. Thank you. Let's move on to public art. Need a microphone, huh?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Maggie FitzPatrick. I am the Vice Chair of the Commission. I am wearing a black jacket and I'm wearing glasses. Tonight we are voting on 3 programs from the Public Arts Committee. We met on September 22nd to review the grant recommendations, and we have consensus to move them forward tonight before this body. They include 3, as I mentioned, the Arts Exhibition Grant, Curatorial, the Public Art Building Communities Grant, and the Marion Barry Jr. Legacy Public Art Project. And Mr. Chairman, I would be remiss if I didn't recognize our former First Lady of the District of Columbia, Cora, who has worked so hard to continue to advance the wonderful legacy of our Mayor for Life, Marion Barry. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to the grant managers who are driving these individual programs. I'll start with Sarah Gordon. If you could walk us through the Arts Exhibition Grant Curatorial. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Sarah Gordon. I'm the curator here at the Commission. I am a white woman with brown hair pulled back, blue dress, brown sweater. And this is going to be a quick one. So I am here to tell you a little bit about the Art Exhibition or Curatorial Grant. This grant provides support for the development and public presentation of visual art exhibitions by district resident curators.
through grant support, the use of our exhibition space. This is the gallery in our building at 200 I Street Southeast that I hope you all either have been to or will come to soon, and also our virtual platform. The budget for FY23 is at $35,000. It has gone up $5,000 per year for the past 2 cycles. And we had 1 panel. All applications were eligible and were reviewed. And the recommendation is to fund 1 exhibition proposal for the full grant amount of $35,000.
Very good. Any questions about the proposal? Okay, hearing none, let me turn it over to Carrie Kennedy to walk us through our next grant, Public Art Building Communities. Carrie?
Thank you. My name is Carrie Kennedy. I'm an African-American female. The Public Art Building Communities Grant supports individual artists and organizations in their efforts to design, fabricate, and install new, temporary, or permanent works of public art that connect artists and their artwork with communities. We define public artwork as existing for a duration of at least 5 years without regular maintenance, and temporary projects must demonstrate a duration of less than 2 years. For the fiscal year 2023, our recommendation, or the recommendation, is for $502,000, 500. There was 1 panel. There were 11 applications submitted, 7 of which were eligible. The 4 that were ineligible were missing required documentation. All eligible applications were reviewed. The panel recommended 5 applications that received a score above 70. Public art projects are funded in total based on the applicant's request up to the maximum allowable amount by cohort. And that's individuals up to $75,000, organizations at $125,000, and bids up to $150,000. The total recommended request, again, was $502,500. That was divided between individuals at $130,000, 2 awards, which covered Ward 1 and Ward 5. 3 organizations were awarded at $372,500, and that covered Ward 2, 6, and 7. That is broken down by bids, which was awarded 1 project at $125,000 and 2 organizations at $247,500 for the total award.
Any questions or discussion about the proposal? Okay, hearing none, I'd like to turn now to Lauren Glover, who leads our public art group at the commission and who will present the Berry Legacy project.
Thank you. Good evening. So I'm wearing 2 hats as the public art manager and serving as the grants manager, program manager for the Marion Berry Junior Legacy Public Art Project, which has been a pure joy to do. This was a 2-step process. In June, we had the first step where 3 finalists were identified. They had an opportunity to come to the Berry building to learn more about the technical aspects of the space that would be activated, as well as to hear from the Berry Commission on their goals and objectives for this project. From there, they submitted written proposals and also presented scale, model, and maquettes of their design concept. Based on that evaluation, there's a recommendation for 1 artist team at an award of $250,000. I'm happy to take any questions or.
Any questions on the project? Hearing none, Chairman Van Lee, we resolve that the commission adopt the funding recommendations for the FY 2023 Art Exhibition Grant Program, the Public Art Building Communities Program, and the Marion Berry Junior Legacy Public Art Project.
Thank you. Any discussion? If not, I'll take the vote. Stacy? Cora? Maggie?
Yay.
Cornice? Natalie, Kymber, Mariah, Carla, Hector,
Yay.
Gretchen.
Yes.
It passes. We thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if you wouldn't mind, if I may
Please.
take just a moment, I
Please.
wanted to introduce the rest of my team. We're
Please.
very small, but we're very mighty.
Small but mighty, yes.
Very small and mighty. So Deidre Darden is a grants manager and handling Murals DC and Color the Curb. Ron Humbertson is there. I think our council members have left, but he makes sure all the art bank projects get into council members' offices and district government offices and keeps track of our public art and our art bank collection. And of course, Vanessa Ackham, I think she's here as well, and she just supports us all and makes sure that we're doing what we're supposed to do. So I just wanted to acknowledge them because, again, we're a small group. We work very hard, and all of our work is on public display. And I think obviously DC, you will see some of our upcoming grants that were not discussed here that will come up for fiscal year 23. We look forward to adding that to your website.
Great.
Thank you.
So thank you, everyone, for hanging in there. This is important work. It takes a while, and we wanted you to really understand what goes into the thinking here. We're almost ready to go to cocktails, but I would like to, as part of the new business, to recognize some of our past commissioners who are here this evening, Marianne, Rona, Jose, and Cece. And my Vanna White equivalent is going to help me share with you all some tokens of our appreciation, a piece of artwork from a DC artist. Thank you, Cece. Rona. Thank you, Jose. Thank you, Marianne. So with that, I thank you for your time. The next meeting of the commission will be on Monday, October 17th, 2022. The time is now 7:33. There being no further business, this meeting is adjourned. On to cocktails. Thank you.